Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you're in the chat, if you're watching right now, make sure to go ahead and leave a comment. I'm gonna go to get started here in a minute, but just make sure to go ahead and leave a comment. If you have any questions regarding the topic for today, I want you to also leave in the comments as well. All right, let's go ahead and get it started. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast, episode 135. For today's topic, we're going to be discussing what is your identity. Now, this is a topic that I feel I probably have talked about it in previous podcasts, but I definitely wanted to make it its own podcast just because it's so significant within the self development community. And I feel like a lot of people right now, specifically right now, are really, really lost with their sense of identity. And um, I feel like they attach their identity to a lot of things that are not conducive to a great and healthy life. So that's kind of how I want to go ahead and get it started. If you are new here, make sure you go ahead and subscribe and also leave a follow if you're watching on Twitch. Um, Make sure you go ahead and follow me on TikTok as well. Just Life of a Champ podcast on TikTok. It should be in my description, as well as make sure you go ahead and leave a like on my YouTube Shorts, as well as my YouTube clips as well. If you can't catch a full podcast but still want to get the game, that is going to be my biggest recommendation because that is going to be where I take small bits of the podcast and chop it up and give you guys some of the most beneficial content that I think would help you guys out. Other than that, what else do I got? What else do I got? We're gonna get it started. Like I'd mentioned earlier, if there's a specific question that you have, make sure you go ahead and leave it in the comments. Like I said, if you're saying hi, make sure you go ahead and leave in the comments as well. KJ, I appreciate you for stopping by. As usual, holding it down, man. Come on now. So the question for today's podcast, right? What is your identity? Now, the reason why this is so significant is because you want to go ahead and observe the two different types of people that do exist, right? The people who know themselves and the people who truly have no direction. They're moving very very aimless, right? So there's like I said, there's two different people, and I'm sure hopefully you've met one of each, right? A person who's really really firm within their own self identity, as well as somebody who's probably just lost and trying to just figure it out and is, let's just say, living their first few lives, right? They're just trying to get it sorted out. And I want to know if you're watching this right now, whether you're watching or watching the comments. I want to know what type of person you are. Are you a person that truly has a very very strong sense of identity, or if you're a person, like I said, it's okay to admit this because we're trying to all get better here. If you're a person that maybe is maybe lacking a little bit of the identity skill, because it is a skill that needs to be obtained over a period of time. Um, then I want you to go and leave in the comments as well. And like I said, if you have any questions, make sure and leave in the comments. But the reason why I found this so significant is because I feel like a lot of solutions to most people's problems all stem from a lack of identity or a lack of the right identity that has been chosen, right? And maybe you need to remove some parts of your identity, and maybe you need to add in more parts of your identity. And I would say more often than not, I feel like it's more of taking things away, if anything. Because I would say most people, unfortunately, They have this mentality about their own personal identity, um, that they live within limitations. They set limitations on themselves, and they don't live the best life that they possibly can live based off of that one limitation. And like I said, these are not even things that are going to be like limiting circumstances. These are all going to be things within your mind. And part of the podcast is hoping that I can help sharpen your mind, because let's just say there's a lot of people who are dull out here. And like I said, if you're dull, that's okay. The first step to making progress is admitting that you are dull, and then you moving forward. I was lost in life, but I am truly found what I needed to get done, and I'm on the grind, and I'm on the path right now to change for the better. Exactly. KJ already knows what time it is, man. Come on now. So you asked the question, what is your identity, right? So for yourself, I want you to go ahead and, if you do really want to, take the most out of this podcast that you possibly can, I want you to write down. I'll give you some time. I want you to write down specifically what you believe to be a part of your identity. This can be a lot of different things. These can be all self beliefs, or these can be beliefs that have been instilled within you since you were a child, right? From all the people around you, which I would say identity is probably going to be a little bit of both, but hopefully it's more of your own created idea of what you want your identity to be. I feel like that's going to be most important. And I also believe a lot of what could hold somebody back is going to be past identities and past things that they claim, that they truly claim, that people truly claim when it comes to their identity. Like, for example, this is going to be one thing that I see, that I would say is a flaw. It's truly a flaw, and instead of treating it as you would other flaws, a lot of people just accept it for what it is, right? So the perfect example I like to use is this. Um, let's just say, for example, there's a kid who's maybe a little shy, right? But telling that kid that that kid is shy, or saying, let's just say that kid's there and there's going to be others, other adults, right? Saying, hey, you know what? It's okay. He's shy, right? You're literally creating an identity for somebody that doesn't even know if they're truly shy or not, right? And then that person could potentially carry that for the rest of their lives. They will limit themselves in a lot of different ways just because they had that instilled identity. Instead of saying, instead of literally pushing that person and saying, hey, get comfortable with this uncomfortable feeling, because truly you're going to need this. Truly, this is a skill that you must overcome if you want to get the most out of life, right? You would help them out. You would help them out, as you would anybody else, right? And I see too many people. Um, First, like I said, they just need to reconstruct. They just need to reconstruct their identity when it comes to, what they've been told in their past, especially by the people around you, right? For example, let's just say you're in the gym, but you still have people telling you you're fat, right? You're gonna hold on to that identity instead of saying, you know what, I'm a different person. I'm putting in the work, and eventually it's going to change. And always comes at a good time, man. And I feel like when it comes down to creating the best identity that you possibly can, you're going to need to eliminate a few things, and, um, never believe in anything. This I'm a huge advocate for this, and I will always be. Never believe anything that takes power away from you, right? Because you're shifting the responsibility of your own life that you could take in your own life, and you're shifting it to something that is above you, right? When in reality it's truly not. I'm sorry, the camera's tweaking right now. All right, let's get back to it, man. So, like I said, if you're watching this right now, I want to know. Like, give me three things that you adopted with your identity, right? What are three things that you truly identify with, right? Um, yeah. So, like I said, if I had to define what identity is, it is things that you choose to resonate with, and then you attach it to your identity. So, like I said, if you were to define yourself, you would define yourself with these certain things. Um, Whether they're good or bad, ultimately you shouldn't truly resonate with bad things. You should just try to find the solution to the problem, right? Never, if you, and here's the thing, this is what I do all the time, right? Let's just say I'm in a public setting, right? And I hear somebody try to uphold and reinstill the fact that they have a negative identity. It doesn't matter what it is. I will always correct them. Whether they say I can't, I would never, I could never, I correct them, saying, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing? Take a step back for a second. Are you sure about this? Are you truly sure about that? Do you really believe you can't do it? Why can't you do it? I literally try to break it down right there. I literally try to break it down right there. I want to get to the root of the problem, because truly your identity sucks. I'm gonna keep it a rack, right? I'm gonna keep it a rack. If you're upholding negative identities, your identity sucks. So change it. And with that being said, you can now leave that identity in the past and now shift into a new identity, right? You can do this. It's not, no one can tell you otherwise. No one can tell you otherwise. Um, and as long as you're acting in accordance to the identity that you want to uphold, then truly you are that. There's really no doubt in my mind that you are that. If you claim it, if you act in accordance every single day, you are that. Why aren't you that? You're doing the same thing that that person would do. That type of person would do. Why aren't you that? And over time, you will prove yourself right that you are exactly what you say you are. And like I said, the reason why I had to say something because I see too many people. I see too many people truly take the victimization route. They truly like to victimize themselves and truly like uphold an identity that doesn't serve them well, right? I just don't understand. That just wouldn't make any sense to me to uphold anything that really wouldn't help me out, right? Why would you even do that? Why would you even think like that? Why would you even put that into the universe? Why would you even, you see what I'm saying? Right, hopefully you can take something from this. Like I said, if you're in here, I want you to, like I said, whether you're watching this or watching this live, I want you to tap in right now. I want you to, what are three things that you would truly attach to your identity right now? I want you to go ahead and leave in the comments. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I just think it's probably one of the saddest things that I've ever experienced, man. Truly. And I'm sure you can even think right now when you were in when you were in your day-to-day life, I'm sure you could just remember certain things that people say and you're probably just like, and hopefully this is what you do. Hopefully you're taking it back a little bit, like, what the hell? Like, how the hell would you ever say that about yourself? Hopefully you have that mentality. Instead of just accepting that for what it is, you must question that. You must question why that person is upholding that identity. And a lot of the reason why people uphold identities that truly don't serve them is because they don't want it. They don't want that obligation. They don't want that feeling of I'm not good enough, right? And truly, that's an uncomfortable feeling, and I would agree with that, right? But that's something. And just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's not necessary. It's truly a necessary feeling. Everybody's gonna feel it. Everybody feels it. The most perfect person you know right now feels it. Feels insufficient in some type of way, right? And they're trying to get better at it right now, right? Hopefully, right? And with that being said, you are in the same boat, right? You have things that you need to improve within your own life, and you watching this, you probably need to reconstruct your identity in some type of capacity. Even for myself, I'm in the midst of truly reframing the identity that I truly want to uphold, and then backing it up with action. Of course, that's a very very huge part as well. Because you can say one thing and not do it, of course, but if you say it and then you act like it, you are it, right? And it kind of goes back to that quote that I've mentioned time and time again on the podcast: "Be him before you become him. Be her before you become her." Right? Um, it's going to come down to the identity of first trying to figure out specifically what identity you want to uphold. Who is him in your mind? Who is her in your mind? Right? Figure out and define clearly, very very clearly as you possibly can what that looks like. Right? As soon as you have that, that means you have a goal. You have a path to go down. And also, you should be conscious that you also have another path to go down as well. You could go down this as well. So you have the ideal identity path. And then you have the less than ideal identity path, right? And every single time you start to waver into the not ideal identity path, that you already know what you're striving for. You already know the identity that you want to uphold. So therefore, you can go ahead and take corrective action immediately if you so please. And I feel like that's where a lot of people lack. They get stuck into this mentality of this negativity, and when they're stuck with this negativity, they continue to make decisions based off of that, right? Based off of the not ideal identity that they want to uphold. Uh, they continuously take the path of that identity instead of correcting, right? And like I said, taking correction and taking accountability of your life is not an easy thing. But in life, it's not about just doing the easy things. It's about doing the things that are truly necessary. And if you truly find that to be necessary, and if you truly can logically think that that is a necessary thing, then you have some choices that you need to make, man. You have some life decisions that you must contemplate, right? I feel like I feel like they victimize them because they feel as if it's a safer route, but nothing in life is 100% safe. And even here's the thing: the most safest things are truly not the safest things for you. I'm gonna keep it. I'm just gonna say that, right? If you want, if you want it that bad, you will do anything to get it. The thing I would say is to act like you're him, even if you're not him yet, because you will develop an identity and a creation of what your future looks like, and then and then that it takes to get there. Okay, exactly. He's exactly right. He's exactly right. KJ's exactly right with that, man. My reading's not the best, fellas. Please don't destroy me, man. But he's exactly right. Even if you're not exactly where you are, you're on the path of where you want to be. Hopefully you've defined that for yourself. If you define that for yourself, like I said, you have a course of action, right? Most people live life without a course of action, truly. Now, if you can construct that for yourself, what that looks like, maybe if you need help, this is something that I would do and something that I would recommend. Observe the people that you find to be most fascinated with, right? People that you admire, people that you're inspired by, right? Take little things from their little things that you truly want to uphold in your own life. Take those certain things, observe that person very very closely, and then adopt the certain identities that you think that person would uphold. For example, right? Let's just say you're out of shape, right? This is a perfect one. Let's just say you're out of shape right now, and you want to get in shape. Adopt the identity of a person who's healthy. What would a healthy person do? You ask yourself the question. I got donuts in front of me. What would a healthy person do? Would a healthy person indulge, or would a healthy person resist? And then you make your decision based off of that, right? That is going to be the easiest way to do. That's going to be the easiest way to truly change your life because you're now reconstructing. You're now reconstructing the way in which you thought previously, right? And then I heard I want to give props because props is needed. I want to the reason the way I got this idea and these ideas from this specific podcast is from this book called Atomic Habits. It talks about building new habits and also breaking old habits, old bad habits, of course, right? But one of the things that it comes down to is truly the identity that you want to uphold. There's no way you're going to be able to maintain a habit and have the completely counter identity to that. There's just no way. You're destined to fail. You're destined to fail. Even if you're truly capable of it, if your identity is flawed, then you will be flawed, right? Because you're not giving yourself the affirmations that you truly need, right? Because everybody truly needs these things. You need to be constantly reminded of the positive things in this life. You need to be constantly reminded because if you're not, you have that space, you have that empty space that can be filled with negativity, and that's where most people go towards, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, it's a sense of self, right? It's a sense of self, right? Most people don't know themselves. Unfortunately, they don't. They haven't spent enough time thinking about it. They haven't spent enough time creating their own utopia, creating their ideal identity, right? What does that look like, right? You need to be very clear with these things because these things are very, very important. These things will dictate whether you go far in this life or not. These things will dictate whether you stay average or you become above average, right? You're not gonna see somebody who's above average who believes he's below average. You're just not gonna see it. You're just not gonna see it. That person has that person has upholded identity and acted in accordance to what would be a better identity than the average person, right? So figure out what that is. Like I said, I want to reiterate the point that I made, right? The people that you find inspiring and the people that you admire, right? What are their admirable qualities that you want to uphold? Attach that to your identity. Attach that to your ideal identity. And as soon as you start, as soon this is important, right? As soon as you start acting as that identity, you must now completely believe that you are that person, right? You must avoid that sense of detachment, right? Whether it's your present self or whether it's the self in which you want to be, right? You must eventually that needs to line up because if it doesn't line up, then you're always going to have this distance. You're always going to feel like you need to I'm not I wouldn't say do more, but you're not good enough, right? As long as you're doing what you need to do, you should feel a sense of fulfillment. And if you truly do not, then maybe you need to do more thinking. That's what I'll say. Um Yeah. That book was a very very good book. I've been able to recall and extract a lot from that book, thankfully. But yeah, like I said, the only way you're going to be able to maintain a habit, the only way you're going to be able to maintain a system, the only way you're going to be able to have a strong foundation of anything is if you truly have the identity that's going to be ideal in that specific situation. Like I said, the reason why most people fail is truly because their identity is not strong enough to handle adversity, right? The identity that you uphold is gonna dictate how you move in certain situations in life, right? It's gonna be the deciding factor in which you fold or which you don't fold at all, right? And yeah, and if you need help identifying kind of what you want your identity to be, the only thing that I can give you, and the only thing that I've been giving you, obviously I've been giving you the game, man. But I would recommend one podcast. It's going to be my undefeated mindset, the first undefeated mindset podcast that I've made. Right. Hopefully you can now take those certain mindsets and create an identity based off of that. Right. And of course, hopefully you can add more to that when it comes to the certain mindsets that you want to uphold. And I do believe mindsets and identity those are going to go hand in hand. Right. If you have good mindsets, you're going to have good identity. If you have a bad identity, you're going to have bad mindsets. Right. Those things go hand in hand. And the more positivity you can have, the more positive mindsets that you can reaffirm within yourself, the better your identity is going to be. I would say it's just as simple as that, man. Um, yeah, like I said, Kate is holding down the chat. If you are in here, make sure to leave in the comments. Like I said, if you're watching on Twitch, I'm also looking at the Twitch chat, so tap in with that for sure. Give me 1 second. And one thing that I ultimately want to go ahead and do with this podcast, and I feel like this is going to be a lot of things that I say on this podcast, right? But I'm trying to help you become a better observer of life, right? When you encounter people now, I want you to be a little bit more conscious and in the moment when it comes to you observing somebody and the identity that they choose to uphold, whether this is a good identity or whether this is a bad identity. And take note of that. Take note of that and avoid doing that so people won't observe that in you, because that's the last thing that you want. The last thing that you want is somebody truly recognizing they don't even have to say it. Somebody truly recognizing that you're not who you could be, right? That you're not upholding a positive identity, that you're truly bringing yourself down, and by bringing yourself down, you're bringing everyone else around you down as well, right? And nobody wants to be around those type of people. I'm gonna be honest with you. Nobody truly wants to be around those type of people. Me specifically, I want to stay as far away as I possibly can from those type of people. But at the same time, I want to be able to help those people out, right? Of course. But you yourself, you watching this right now, do you want to be surrounded by people who truly have a negative identity for themselves, or do you want to be around people who truly have a positive identity about themselves? And if it's the second one, you must become that person as well. You must adopt the identity of a person who's going to uphold a positive identity. And then you don't even do it for yourself. Do it for other people around you, right? I feel like that can help people out as well. And yeah, I had this point written down, and I think this is very, very important. People are literally make or break based off of their identity. It's so crazy to say it like that because it's super plain, and it's something that you can easily understand. But it's not about understanding the point. It's about internalizing the point for what it is. People are make or break based off of their identity. If they have a bad identity, that person's going to increasingly have a worse identity because of that. If this person has a positive identity and you put work into it, right? You give yourself the right affirmations, you give yourself the right inputs, you're going to be in a better place when it comes to upholding a positive identity. Um, yeah, like I said, observe people that have the negative identities, man. Avoid being like that type of person, man. And there is sadly going to be plenty of opportunities for you to go ahead and be an observer of this, right? There's going to be plenty of people who don't even know that you're going to be even keeping note of these certain things, right? And I just I feel bad for my own subconscious mind when I'm around people like that. I literally feel bad. I'm like, damn, it's truly not the best thing to be around, man. That sucks, but hey, it is what it is. The only thing I can do is give myself the positive affirmations that they're not giving themselves and go from there, right? But like I said, that negativity spreads like wildfire, and if I'm sure you watching this, I'm sure you know that as well. But like I said, don't be like that person, man, because nobody wants to be around that person at all, man. And one thing I want to mention as well is some people feel like these things are set. Their identity is set, and it's never set. It's never in your life set. it's very very fluid. I would say actually, I would say it's very very fluid, and it could be a little bit more solid if you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to give yourself exactly what you need, whatever that is, whatever that is. If it's telling yourself that you're strong every single day, then that's what it is. If it's telling yourself that you're constantly getting better every single day, then that's what it is, right? But it's a choice. It's truly a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice to choose a positive identity or a negative identity. It's truly a choice, and you shouldn't resist the idea that it's anything more than just a choice, because it truly is a choice, right? Now, the question I ask for you is, what identity are you going to choose? Are you going to continuously choose the negative identity that's not serving you at all and not serving anyone else around you, and no one wants to be around you? Or are you going to take a step back and say, what is the identity that I want to uphold? Am I truly upholding the identity? Let's just say maybe you don't even have that bad of an identity, right? Let's just say that, for example, right? Could it be better? And of course it could be better. Okay? If it could be better, what are certain things that you could tweak? Like I said, maybe it's self affirmations. Those are so important, man. Those are so slept on, and especially when I was first coming into the self development game. Right, that's something that I thought was always so stupid and cliche. I always thought about that. Same thing with motivational speakers and things like that. I always thought that stuff was like, you're dumb, you're dumb. I always had that like super resistant mindset, and then I realized I heard it and I understood what they were saying, but I didn't internalize it. The second I started to internalize it is the second I started to reconstruct kind of how I viewed that, right? And that's ultimately going to that could potentially change your life. It's saying recognizing the fact that that can be cliche at times and things like that, but at the same time, you need to do what you need to do. That's gonna be best for you, and whatever that is, make sure you go ahead and do it. All right. What is the meaning of identity not being set in stone, but however fluid? It's a choice, factors where we control, and yeah, exactly. These are things that you can all control. These are things that you can control, and the people that have a negative identity are the people who openly admit that they don't have any control. They have no responsibility and they have no authority over their own lives. Right? Don't be like this person. And if you're like this, I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out straight up, man. You got to be better. You got to be better. And like I said, if being better for you is not good enough, because for some reason, for some people, it's not good enough. Be better for the people around you then. Right? That's good. That's bigger than yourself. Always think bigger than yourself. If you're not enough, think bigger than yourself. How would you properly get rid of a negative identity? You get rid of a negative identity by consciously taking corrective action. Let's just say you begin to see yourself getting into a phase of life where you're not as positive. Recognize that you're not as positive. Let's just say you say something like, "Oh," and I hear people say this shit all the time. This is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my whole life. "Oh, I want to kill myself." Something like that. If something to that effect, right? If you even get into that topic, remove that vocabulary. And also if you have that in your vocabulary, be very very conscious of the people that are giving you that type of input, because you're you just don't come up and say things like that. You hear it and then you adopt it, right? You adopt it into your vocabulary, right? So get rid of certain things like that. If you see yourself even having the slightest inclination to even say something like that, or even resonate with something like that, you stop it right there. You say, whoa, 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 hold up. This is a choice. I now have a choice whether I should, actually, stay with this specific identity, or I could choose better for myself. Now, which one do you choose? That is going to be the only way that you can possibly do that. Is when you see them start to creep in, right? Instead of saying, "All right, come on in, buddy, come on in," you say, "No, I'm not letting you in this time because I have an identity that I want to uphold, and this is not conducive to the identity that I want to uphold. So therefore, I must remove it. You have no other choice." But yeah, the only way to get rid of a negative identity is by constantly being very very aware that it is truly a negative identity, and that you truly do not want to be upholding this identity. That's the only way. That's the only way. Like I said, I see a few people in here. If you want to go ahead and leave a comment, just so I can see who's in here. If you have any questions regarding today's topic about identity, I want you to go ahead and leave in the comments. Give me 1 second, man. All right. Yeah, I want to double down on this because I need to double down on this, right? Be clear with the identity that you want. Create this create this huge vision for the identity that you want to uphold, right? after you, and here's the thing, you're not going to be able to always just create this grand vision, especially if you're coming from a super negative spot. You're not going to be able to just create this grand vision, but at the same time, you hopefully you know the difference between right and wrong. You know the difference between positive and negative. You know, and you should hopefully have that sense of guilt if you are doing something you know it to be wrong. Hopefully, you have that sense of guilt because if you're calibrated correctly, if you're socially calibrated correctly, when you're doing things that are truly not good for you, you should feel a sense of guilt, right? And you have people that don't even feel guilty for being negative. That's just the craziest shit that I ever heard in my life. They don't even feel guilty. They just they're so used to it that they don't even know any other way of life, right? And one thing I want to say as well, right? Let's just say you're in public, man. Do the same thing that I do, man. If you're in public and you hear somebody upholding a negative identity, call them out. Call them out because truly that's what they need. And like I said, I've always said it on this podcast, fellas. I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear, and it's as simple as that, man. If I have a conversation with you, you pop up with a negative identity. I'm gonna straight up stop the conversation and let you know you're silly for even thinking like that, right? I've done it time and time again, especially with my friends. If I ever see my friends even have anything on them like that, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna check him. I'm gonna check my man straight up because, quite frankly, I don't want to be around people like that, and I know he doesn't want to be around people like that. So you must check it. You must nip it in the bud for sure. So, like I said, if you have any questions, make sure to leave in the comments. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to think. What else do I want to add to this specific one? So yeah, with the positive affirmations, let's just say you needed help, right? What are things that are what are ways in which you want to be? What are ways in which you believe you are right now, right? And here's the thing. I would say that there's probably going to be some utility in also writing down the negative identities that you think that you uphold. If writing the hard ones is hard, if writing the positive ones is hard, write down the negative ones. And I want you to create a list that you must cross off eventually. I want you to eventually cross off this entire list because you know damn well that you shouldn't even have that. You shouldn't even have that list. But but here's the thing. You can't just completely get rid of it. You can't completely get rid of it. So you must keep. Hopefully you can use this as like some type of progress. Where you can say, what, I used to have this identity. Maybe you can look back and laugh at it, right? I used to uphold this identity. I got rid of it. I got rid of it. I every single time I seen myself start to want to resonate with this specific identity, I got rid of it, right? Yeah, it's as simple as that. And I feel like, you know what, I got to bring this topic up. I can't not bring this topic up, man. Do I want to bring it up? I have to bring it up. I have to bring it up. Do I really want to though? Okay, I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up. I'm gonna give you one observation that I've seen time and time again when it comes to identity. And this is gonna be one of the biggest flaws within society. And if you've watched my podcast before, you probably heard me talk about it. But if you haven't, hopefully this is gonna be something that you recognize right now, right? One thing that I observe in society, and I think this is probably the funniest thing that I've ever seen, is you see a lot of women resonating with a masculine type of identity instead of a feminine one. They want to be feminine, they want a masculine man, yet they're still resonating with masculinity. They're resonating with this masculine type of identity when in reality it's not conducive to the life that they truly want to live. And I find that to be the most counterintuitive thing that a woman could do is want a masculine man, expect a man to be masculine, and also want to uphold a masculine identity. You can't do both. You can't do both. And yeah, I would say that's obviously one example that I see. Um, but like I said, I wouldn't consider that positive. I do believe that there's going to be positive. There's going to be some very very few masculine qualities that women should adopt. Right? There's very very few. One of them is self discipline. Right? I can't give you a whole lot right now because truly I don't want to. I don't want to get into that. But if I can give you one masculine quality that women should attach to their identity is self discipline and self control. Right? Those are two that are I would say ideals. Whether you're a man or a woman, they're definitely an ideal to strive for, and like I said, a part of the identity that you should choose to uphold for sure. But like I said, if you have any questions, make sure and leave in the comments. I want to mention something as well. I realized at a young age that with your identity that you have, that truly you can only tell you who you are, right? This is something that I've always been conscious of because with my own life, I feel like my own specific name, I feel like it allowed me to have a different type of view of identity, right? And things that I want to resonate with because it's not your typical name, so therefore I can't typically resonate with the same type of things that a normal person would because truly I don't have a normal name. So it was a little bit easier for me to go ahead and do based off of that specific reason. Um, but yeah, I want to let you know that you're the only one who can tell you who you are. No one else can tell you who you are. If anyone else says something about you, they're talking about your reputation. They're not talking about your character. They're not talking about your identity. Only you can say what your identity truly is. That's what it's gonna come down to, right? Unless I'm not even gonna get into that, man. Just know, for the most part, the identity that you say that you are, it doesn't matter what anyone else says. As long as you truly fully internalize it, as long as it's positive, then that's just what it's gonna come down to, man. Like I said, only you can tell you who you are. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? What identity you want to uphold? And the second that you can answer that and become more clear with that is the second that you could truly change your life. You could truly start making the best decisions that you know are conducive to a truly positive life. Because, like I said, most people just don't take that route, unfortunately. Self control has helped me out a lot in life because it helped me gain back my life to make it better for myself and with me helping out other people. It may be hard at first, my friends, but doing it for everything you are accounted for day by day, it'll get easier with more opportunities to change your life. I would agree with that, KJ. I would agree with that for sure. And yeah, like I said, this is not something that's particularly going to be easy. You're literally reconstructing an identity that you uphold right now, the identity that you've been all of your life. This is not something that's particularly easy. But like I had mentioned earlier, just because it's not particularly easy doesn't mean it's not something that you should do, or something that you shouldn't do, rather, right? You need to still be able to do these things even if they're not the easiest thing to do, right? Everything that's worth it in this life is on the other side of hard, right? That's just what it's going to come down to, man. And like I said, reconstructing the identity that you want. This could hopefully be a fun thing, right? You can create an alter ego if you wanted to. If you wanted to create an alter ego, whatever this person would be, and you uphold the identity of becoming that person, then you'll now have it match up. Like I said, like for example, right? I don't even know if I can give you one. Let's just say, I don't know, man. I'll just use this for example, right? Me being a podcaster, right? I could say this is Champ who's a podcaster, and this is Champ who is right now, right? I can have these two things, right? If the second I start to pedestalize this podcast version of Champ, I'm putting the Champ that is right now, I'm putting him down, right? But eventually, if you constantly are fulfilling yourself with positive affirmations about becoming, like I said, the podcast Champ. I'm just using this for example, of course. Then you can now, like I said, combine those type of identities. You can combine the alter ego that you've adopted and you've defined specifically through that specific identity, and you can now create it into a one person, which is something that I would recommend for everybody to do. Um, because at first this is going to seem like it's very very far out, right? This is going to seem maybe even a little silly at times with creating an identity, right? But at the same time, the second that you can create an ideal for yourself is the second that you already have an hell version of yourself as well. And I feel like a lot of people, they just don't talk about that enough, right? I got that idea from Jordan Peterson. He talked about that, right? You create an ideal for your life. Create an ideal for your life, and once you have an ideal, you automatically have a hell because obviously it's going to be the all. If everything went wrong, that's what the hell is going to be, right? And if everything went right, that's what the ideal identity should be, right? It may be. Oh yeah, he already said that. Like I said, if you have comments, make sure you leave them in the comments, man. I don't know, I'm speaking really fast, fellas. Hopefully y'all keeping up, man. Like I said, if you got anything from this podcast, I also want you to let me know. Whether you're watching this or watching this live, I want you to go let me know for sure. All right. I'm trying to think what else, man. When it comes to your identity, I feel like with also, creating an identity, I feel like being very, very clear with all the elements that can influence your identity, I feel like that can also be very, very helpful. Whether this is the type of people that you're around, or maybe it's a certain type of content that you're consuming. These are all things that can truly shape your identity, or can truly shift your identity away from what you want it to be. If you're consuming, let's just say you're trying to get rid of video games, like you're trying not to watch, or try not to play video games, right? If you're watching nothing but gamers, you're fucked. You're fucked. You're gonna fall back into a temptation. You're gonna fall back into those same type of identity. So, like I said, if you want to create a new identity, then creating a new identity is one of the funnest things you possibly can do. Truly, I'll truly say that. But it's also one of the most painful things that you can potentially do as well, because like I had mentioned, first to remove those certain things from your life is going to be very, very difficult. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it. It's not going to be easy. But also, if you refuse to do these certain things, you're also going to feel that negative feeling, that feeling of guilt, that necessary guilt that you should be feeling if you're truly not being the person that you want to be. So it's a great ultimate positive, but and it's definitely a necessary evil. I'm gonna say that's a necessary evil with the identity thing. But yeah. Like I said, if you have any specific questions or comments regarding today's topic, I want you to go ahead and leave in the comments. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end it off here in a few minutes. So, like I said, if you have any questions, I want you to go and let me know for damn sure. Let me make sure I said everything that I feel like I needed to say. Mm. Yeah, I want to reiterate this point, man. Truly start to be an observer of life. Observe people, right? Let's just say observe the people in your life right now, right? Let's just say the closest people in your family, right? Or the closest friends that you have. Do they truly resonate with a positive identity, or they truly resonate with a negative identity? That's gonna start exposing a lot of shit in your life. I'll tell you that right now. You're gonna see people for their true colors when you can truly identify whether they are upholding a positive or a negative identity. It says a whole lot about a person. It says a whole lot about their upbringing. It says a whole lot about their mindset. It says a whole lot about their approach in life. It says a whole lot about a person. I'm telling you. And if you have people in your life, hopefully family, friends that you see admirable qualities, hopefully you're hanging out with people that truly have admirable qualities. If you do, this is going to be a little bit, hopefully a little bit easier to go ahead and adopt maybe some of those positive identities that you see your friends have, right? It's going to be a little bit easier because you think it's not far from you, right? It's something that is attainable. It's something that's within your realm of or it's in your circle of influence, so therefore it's attainable, right? And one thing I want to say as well is, with creating a new identity, of course you're going to have your ideal identity, but I don't want you to put that too much above yourself as well. I don't want you to think that this is something that is unachievable, because like I said, you choose your own identity and you can control whether you have a positive or negative identity. And with that being said, the second you start to take more positive actions is the second you're starting to become that. And you should not, even though you at first you should detach it from truly who you are, because obviously you want to be better. But the second you started making those great decisions for your life is the second that you start combining those two identities. And like I said, I keep reiterating that specific point because I feel like a lot of people, they have this ideal version of themselves on a pedestal, on a pedestal, and I'm just like, for what? For what? If you can never achieve that if you truly have it, if you truly have it that high up. You want to be able to vibrate at the same frequency in which that person is vibrating at, the identity that you want to hold is vibrating at. So, like I said, putting it above yourself is something that you shouldn't do to an extent. Of course, you should do it at first, but once you start becoming that, like I said, you must bring it down back to earth and say, hey, I can be that and I am that. So therefore, it's not above me and it's attainable, right? And that, I feel like that's where a lot of people get it wrong, and a lot of people can get discouraged, is because when they fall back into whatever that is, when they fall back into that negative identity, right? They feel like the world's falling down, right? When it's not. You just got to get back up. You know the route. You know the correct route, right? So you already know where to go, right? And you know specifically also where to stay away from, right? And now that's up to you, right? If you keep making the same decisions, that's on you. If you keep, improving your life, if you make the right decisions, keep improving your life, that's on you, right? That's just the fun of life, right? Taking that ultimate responsibility instead of just saying life is so hard, man. No, no, it's not hard. Life is what you make it at the end of the day, right? And there's certain, and one thing I want to mention as well is there's going to be a lot of sayings that you've heard in your life, right? This is something that I've recognized as well. There's a lot of different types of sayings that people use to justify certain things or to explain certain things that truly uphold a negative identity, a negative sense of self-worth. And if you see somebody say those, write that shit down and say, I don't ever want to say that. Even if it might be convenient to say in the conversation, and maybe it would even flow a little bit better within the conversation because maybe it would be relatable. But truly, do you want to relate with negativity? Do you want to uphold a negative identity just to be appeasing some type of environment? Like, no, of course not. Come on now. But yeah, a question I have for you today: what is your identity? Right? What is your identity right now? Figure out what your identity is right now, and then from there you can create your ideal identity that you want to uphold. And by creating the ideal identity, you're automatically creating the less than ideal identity that you will not uphold. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? You will not uphold. But yeah, like I said, fellas, this shit's not easy at first, man. It's not easy at first, and that's self development in general, right? These are going to be the hard moments. But like I said, just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not necessary. It's still necessary, and you must recognize that this is the only path to go towards. Do you have another alternative? Do you have a better alternative? Have you thought out a better alternative? If you haven't, this is what else you got? What else you got, man? So, like I said, hopefully you guys took something from this podcast. Of course, I had a great time making this podcast. This is something that's always been on my mind. It's something that's, um, like I had mentioned, I can recall this from information that I've learned and have studied. So, um, make sure you're upholding a positive identity, and make sure you're slowly crossing off the list of negative identities that you uphold, because truly, it is a process. Truly, it's going to be very, very difficult. And if you're a person that's struggling with your identity, I would hope that you would come back to this podcast if you feel like you need to. Just because it's always here, of course. And yeah, I want to end it. I want to end it off with this point, right? People are make or break based off of their identity. Do you want to be a person? Do you want to be a person who's broken because of their identity, or do you want to be a person who's built up because of their identity? Right? It's one of those two things, man. It's one of those two things. And I feel like people overcomplicate this. This is not rocket science, fellas. This is not rocket science. This is a life fundamental, and you must be very, very thorough with this specific life fundamental, because truly it's not going anywhere, and you're not going anywhere. So the more you void this off, the more you push this off, you're still going to have some type of self reflection at the end of the day, right? You're gonna be here tomorrow. You might as well start doing the hard things, man. You might as well start doing the hard things, man. Yeah, yeah. It's as simple as that, man. Be clear with who you want to be. Become it. Become that every single day, man. Do whatever you got to do. Take the positive identity, and like I said, I'll reiterate this one example before I end it off, right? This perfect example, but now apply this to your specific life. The example is this, right? Let's just say you want to uphold the identity. Let's just say you're overweight. You want to uphold the identity of a person who's healthy. Now you must question every single decision that you do based off of that one first paradigm of saying, would a healthy person do this? Should I do this if I want to uphold the positive identity? If that's a no, then you obviously then don't do it. Then don't do it, because at the end of the day, if you choose to do it, you're automatically gonna have internal conflict, and I feel like that's where the most progress is going to be made, when you have that internal conflict, because now it's up to you. Now it's truly in your own hands. Right now it's in your full control when you're not having that internal conflict, and I feel like everybody should have this to an extent, and I feel like a lot of people they either they do, and it's so critical that they want to avoid it at all costs, so they never face it, or they just don't have it at all, unfortunately. So be a person who is making progress in their life, and making progress within their identity and their own personal journey, and also a person who, like I said, if you're not doing what you need to do, hopefully you feel guilty for not doing it, because truly, shit, that happens to me. If I'm not doing what I need to do, you best believe I'm gonna feel guilty for it, man. I'll tell you that. And I feel like that's the only way. That's the only way you truly can change, is when you start to feel, when you start to get this, you void yourself from having that naivety right? You get this knowledge, and right, and if you truly try to go against this specific knowledge, then you're going against what you know to be right, right? And yeah, I think I would say it's as simple as that, right? Don't be that person, man. Don't be that person. Avoid it as much as you possibly can. I'm gonna go ahead and end it off. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. This was Life of a Champ podcast, episode 135, talking about what is your identity. Like I said, fellas, hopefully it's something positive. And if it's not something positive, hopefully you can change it, man. Hopefully you can change it, because you're the only person that can change it, right? I can give you all the information. I can give you all the statistics. I can give you all the books to read. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to if you want to go ahead and change it. If you be clear with the vision that you want for your own life, right? Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it, KJ. Come on now. Yeah, so I'll leave you guys off with the podcast motto. Fellas out here, man, we don't just work around here, man. We outwork. So make sure y'all work at these motherfuckers, because you know that I am, right? I've adopted the identity of a person who outworks. So therefore, when I act like that, I am that. See what I'm saying? Right? Y'all have a good night. Stay tuned in for the podcast on Thursday. We should have a special guest on, so make sure you go ahead and tap in with that for sure. Y'all have a good rest of your night, and like I said, tap in Thursday.